introduction here for Randy. Randy Hughes, known as Mr. Land Trust, is a full-time real estate investor. Okay, you want? Okay, good. Okay, so Randy Hughes is a full-time real estate investor who bought his first rental house in 1969. Oh, that's a good year.
Yeah.
After investing for 10 years, Randy decided to learn more about how to protect his investment and not be a target for lawsuits. Now Randy has used land trust in his business for over 35 years and says he would not own real estate in his own personal name. We welcome America's #1 expert on the use of land trust for real estate investors, Randy Hughes. Thank you,
Well, I can't tell you how nice it is to be here instead of where I live.
What part of Illinois?
Central Illinois. It's just south of Chicago. Although we didn't get hit by the big storm. But it's plenty cold and there's enough snow on the ground to irritate me. So I'm really happy to be here. I smiled all the way in from the car, looking up at the sky. As Dan said, I have been here 2 or 3 times before. I always enjoy coming to Santa Barbara and speaking to you folks. And I'm going to push you a little bit today, challenge you a little bit, some of your thinking, because we as real estate investors get a lot of advice, as Dan was saying earlier, from a lot of different angles. And not all of it's something you need to do, but some of it is something you need to do. And so we'll try to divide that all up and get to the heart of the subject today, which is primarily helping you keep what you got. So, my standard disclaimer, I'm not a lawyer, I'm not giving you legal advice.
Is this something?
Uh,
In front of the projector? Looks like.
You know, I think my glasses.
Ah, yes, okay.
Thank you. You're about to discover how protecting your assets can actually cut the cost of investing and how you can make more money using trust than not using trust, just using your own name. Anybody in here buying and selling notes? You are? You can put notes and mortgages inside a trust. And that's a smart thing to do because then when you make your purchase and the recordation goes through the county recorder's office, it goes in the name of the trust, not you. And that's a good thing because nobody can track what you're doing that way. Other investors, perhaps contingency lawyers who are looking for a fat cat to slaughter. We'll talk more about notes and contracts later. LLCs. Okay, I love LLCs. I'm not here to bash LLCs. But I don't title real estate in the LLC. And that's where a lot of attorneys will get off base in this advice that they give you. An LLC we can look up, can't we? Might be registered with the state. Yeah. We can look up, see homes, what the address is and all that. A land trust, which is nothing more than you may have heard of a title holding trust here in California, they call it, but it's a land trust, is not registered anywhere on planet Earth. And it's really the last entity that isn't tracked by some federal or state agency. And that's a good thing for us. If we can do something that nobody can track, that's a good thing from an asset and privacy standpoint. I teach people, real estate investors all over the United States, just like yourself, how to combine the land trust with the LLC to get the best of both worlds. Because an LLC does have better asset protection, but a land trust has better privacy. So if you link the two together, you get the best of both worlds. Make sense? Okay. I'll give you some examples of how it helps you avoid frivolous lawsuits, how it's helped me tremendously over the last 43 years of being a landlord. So who's using the privacy tool? Well, all of these people and entities can create a land trust. It doesn't have to just be an individual, it doesn't have to be your attorney, it doesn't have to be your accountant. You, as an individual, can create your own trust. Now, you can't create a trust for somebody else without being a lawyer, but you can create your own trust all day long, the rest of your life, with no problem. But if you're involved in any of these type of things, these entities can also create trusts. Who's not using it? Well, the owner that puts real estate in their name. Put your name on the deed if it's recorded at the courthouse. That is so 80s. We don't do that anymore. There's no advantage to owning real estate in your name. None. You get all the advantages if it's in trust, tax advantages and whatnot. You get all the same advantages. So if you get all the advantages by not having title in your name, why would you put title in your name? It makes absolutely no sense at all. All it does is expose you to a lot of problems. Frivolous lawsuits is one of those problems. As I travel around, I get asked pretty much the same questions over and over again. So about 10 years ago, I wrote a booklet called 32 Reasons to Use a Land Trust, which I thought at the time were all the questions that have been asked of me. I just updated it a few years ago, and now it's called 50 Reasons to Use a Land Trust. And in fact, I think I've got 54 reasons in here. I will be glad to send everybody in this room a copy of this electronically. If you want to give me your email address, I'll send you a copy for free of 50-some reasons to use a trust. So the point is, are you going to join the club today, or are you going to realize the benefit of owning property and trust, or you want to keep it the old-fashioned way, where you are exposed? Think of it this way: it's kind of like it's like a submarine. You know, if you're going across the top of the water in a submarine, we can all see that, right? But if I teach you how to take that submarine down below the water, nobody can see what you're doing. And I'm not talking about doing something illegal, immoral, or fattening here, just protecting your assets. It's none of my business what you own, and it's none of your business what I own or control. Yes, Dave?
If you have a rental property and it's currently in your personal name, how difficult is it to move it from your personal name to an LLC and then to land trust?
Well, what I would do is I move my personal name directly into the trust, making the LLC the beneficiary of the trust. And you skip one of those steps.
Skip the LLC altogether?
Skip it, but I mean, it ends up being in control. It's the beneficiary of the trust, but you don't have to run it through the LLC. Just take it right from your name now, you're the title holder, directly into your trust.
And then you just go to the title company and say, I want to do a title change. Is that easy?
You don't even have to do that. You just file a deed in the county in which the property is located.
File the deed. So if the deed's already filed in your personal name, like I've got some properties where the investors have done a joint venture with me in their personal name, but they'd like to change it to something like a land trust. So we just go to the title company and
You don't have to go to the title company. All you have to do is just fill out a deed.
fill out a deed.
It's not a standard, it's not a warranty deed, it's not a quitclaim deed. It's called a deed to trustee. And that's one of the forms that I provide electronically in my home study course. I give you all the forms. They're Word document forms. You load them up on your computer. You fill in the blank, and you go down to the county recorder's office in the county in which the property is located. Not where you live, not where the trust is, but where the property is located, and you file it. And when you file that, it takes the title out of your name and puts it into the trust.
And that could be done over the phone, electronically, emails don't physically have to show up?
Most courthouses, you can mail in a deed to them as long as you send in the right amount of cash with it. Yes, sir.
Do you have an example of one that's filled out, example of the forms?
I do, well, yeah, on the form C.
There are examples there.
Yes. I
Of
give
one
you
that's filled out.
two examples, yes. Yes, sir.
So my husband and I have a family trust. Is that going to work, or is that separate?
You're probably talking about like a family living trust
Yes.
for estate planning purposes.
Right, yeah.
A land trust is a type of living trust, but it's specific to real estate and real estate assets only. The living trust you're talking about has no asset protection and really no privacy. It's set up to just to disperse your assets upon your death.
Right.
While you're alive, there's no benefit to it, there's no asset protection benefit to it. And you might put in there, you know,
We have,
your,
we have an LLC.
you could put in all kinds of things, you know, your silver, your dishes, your shotgun, real estate, you know, the furniture in your house, and then you say in that trust, well, we're gonna give the silver to Aunt Tilly, and you know what I mean?
Right.
So it's a distribution method. So they're really, it's not a good idea to put assets into that living trust, especially if their assets subject to some sort of liability, like investment real estate.
Right.
Because investment real estate has a certain amount of element of risk to it that is not covered by insurance. And in fact, last time I was here speaking a year ago, a lady in the back room, when I was done talking, she said, I just want to tell everybody in this room that what Randy said was right. My parents have been landlords all their life. They're now in their mid-70s. One of their tenants claimed that she got scalded by hot water, sued them. Did they have insurance? Yeah. Not enough though. $500,000 claim above their insurance limit, wiped them out, a lifetime reward.
Wow.
So this is serious stuff. You know, protecting your assets is serious, serious stuff. The smart thing to do is to put each property into its own separate trust. Now, it's too expensive to do that for LLCs, isn't it?
Right.
Now, it's $800 a year for an LLC in California. It's nothing, $0 to form a land trust.
Wow.
So you can form, you know, if you have 10 properties, put them in 10 separate trusts. Didn't Grandma teach us that you don't put all your eggs in one basket? Same philosophy when it comes to real
So
estate.
question,
Yes, sir.
so if let's say the property that they have, now they got sued and it's under the trust, but they're still under the deed. So somebody is
They're
supposed
not
to
on the
be,
deed. If it's in the trust, they're not on the deed.
so who's on the deed?
The trustee and the trust. Trustee and the trust, which has no personal liability. Yes, sir.
I remember seeing something about how like the president was using a land trust basically so people couldn't like be looking into his privacy too much of like where did he buy it from and this and that.
Right.
So is that set up because like how many people is there in a land trust like in that agreement kind of thing?
Well, you
Isn't
can
it
put as many
3?
in there as you want to.
Okay.
We're talking about beneficiaries. You could have one beneficiary or 100 beneficiaries. You could have one LLC or multiple LLCs as co-beneficiary. But you're right. President Obama owns his house in the suburbs of Chicago in a land trust.
Hmm?
Hey, if it's good enough for him, it's good enough for us, right? So let me continue here. Why should you use this form of privacy? Well, it's real easy to form these things. You load up these forms on your computer and you fill in the blank and you hit print, and you got a trust. As I said, you get privacy and asset protection. You make more money. You combine it with the LLCs to get better asset protection. They're free, and you can do it yourself. That's a pretty good list of reasons to do this. Yes.
I had one last thing. Hasn't land trusts, this isn't just something new, like this has been around for like hundreds of years they've been using land trusts,
Yeah,
right?
this isn't a new concept. The reason why it seems like a new concept is because they don't teach this stuff to lawyers in law school. They just don't get the training in law school. So unless they take it upon themselves to learn it after law school, they don't have a clue. And so that's why oftentimes they'll say, oh, don't use a land trust, use an LLC. Well, number one, they make a lot more money forming an LLC than they do a land trust. Number two, they don't know how to form a land trust. And I'm not saying don't use LLCs. As I said before, I'm saying hold title in the name of the trust, have the beneficiary the LLC. Then you get the best of both worlds. All right. Now, I found this list and threw it in on a slide thinking that you might get some humor out of it, maybe not. This is a list of people most likely to get sued in America today. Do you see yourself on that list? Maybe more than once. Huh?
Are those ranked in order?
Yes, that's what the list supposedly was in the order, of number one, people to be so. You see the reason why, let's explain this. Isn't the general public's perception of us as real estate investors that we're all rich, we all have lots of money laying around, even though we could be upside down on the debt to value ratio, right? We could have negative cash flow, everybody thinks we're rich. And hard assets that are recorded in your name are easy to find. So, here's how it works in America. And call me a cynic, but I didn't do this. The system has evolved to this. I run over to Dan's dog. Dan goes to his attorney and says, I want to sue this guy. I want to sue Randy Hughes for $1 million that ran over my dog. And his attorney turns to his computer and says, what's the guy's name? Randy Hughes. He types it in. And now if the printer starts printing all these addresses, because I'm on the deed, his attorney turns to Dan and says, bingo, I think that's pretty good. We're going to go after him on a contingency fee basis, which means Dan doesn't write a check. Now, let's back it up, do it over again. Run over Dan's dog, goes to the attorney says, what's the guy's name? And he types in Randy Hughes, and the printer doesn't budge. No hard assets. Dan, I'm not really sure that we've got a great case here. I think we've got a good case, but not necessarily a great case. So, all I need you to do is get your checkbook out and write a check for $10,000 to my escrow account. And each month I'll send you a letter accounting the hours that I've spent chasing Randy Hughes. That's exactly how it works in America today.
That's true.
Now, Dan's got a decision to make, doesn't he? How bad does he want to sue?
I don't know.
For a lot less than 10 grand. So you see that just by not being in the courthouse records will stop a whole lot of these frivolous lawsuits up front. So, if all my home study course did, which it teaches you how to create your own trust, you buy this course and you're done. You don't spend any money the rest of your life to create land trusts. Now, you can find some attorneys around. There are some smart attorneys around that have taken it upon themselves to learn trust law. One of them is in San Diego, a friend of mine, Linda Sands. I don't know if you know her. She charges $1,650 per trust to do it for you. If all my home study course did was keep you from sitting across the table from these guys one time in your life, would it be worth it? I think it probably would. Because you don't want to sit across the table from these guys. They'll eat you alive. So I was having lunch with Linda in San Diego, and we pull into a parking spot, and that's the license in front of me. I pull out my camera and I take a picture of it. This is the license of an attorney in my town. So I got to thinking, who's really looking out for us? Who's staying up nights, waiting, thinking of ways to protect our assets? You know, we spend all this time, you're here on a Sunday afternoon, there are other things you can do, the sun's shining, it's a beautiful day, but you're here, learning how to build an estate, provide for your family. Doesn't it make sense to take a little bit of time and a little bit of money to learn how to protect all that as you acquire it? So you don't work 40 years like the couple that lost everything to a hot water point? Sure seems like it makes sense to me. Nobody's going to look out for you like you are. Nobody's going to lay awake at night worrying about your assets, but you. Probably not even your spouse or significant other. Now, I always get the question, well, what can I put into a land trust? And you can put all these interests. This building is probably in a trust. Kentucky Fried Chickens, apartment buildings, duplexes, fourplexes, single-family houses. Any real estate or real estate-related asset. So, for example, anybody doing options here? Buying, selling options on real estate?
I would like to, but.
It's a lot of fun. I highly advise it, especially in a rising market. It's not much fun in a declining market. It's fun in a rising market. Notes and mortgages, we talked about that. Anybody buying or selling on a contract? Not a cash deal, but you're taking a down payment, selling, seller financing. That's a great way to make money in this business. I mean, what are you gonna do with your cash? You put it in the bank at 0.025%? You can't live off of that. But you can sell real estate all day long for 7, 8% interest. That's a pretty good cash flow and a heck of a lot better return than the banks are gonna give. So the smart tool of a real estate investor is the land trust, which is just a few pieces of paper. Don't be intimidated by this, just a few pieces of paper. You need two things to form a trust. You need a trust agreement, and you need a deed and trust. Now, I'll give you a bunch of other forms for administrative purposes down the road, but you only need 2 of these forms to create the trust. The deed, which you're mostly familiar with already. Everybody in this room has seen the warranty deed and the language on it. The deed and trust is like a warranty deed, but there's a little more language in there to make it work right. The trust agreement is a contract between the trustee and the beneficiary. And it follows contract law, and consequently, under contract law, we can agree to do anything we want to do as long as it's legal and not against public policy. So, for example, we could agree, Dan and I could agree to meet tomorrow morning at the McDonald's, have a cup of coffee, and go look at some deals and make 5 offers tomorrow. We could contractually agree to that. We could not agree to meet at McDonald's, have coffee, and go rob the bank. That would be illegal. So, given those parameters, we can agree on anything we want to, which makes these documents very fluid and very changeable. And I'm going to break this down in a minute exactly how to create a trust. There are 2 parties to the trust agreement, as I said, the trustee and the beneficiary. And the cost, as I mentioned, is 0. Okay? As you mentioned, and for you history buffs, yes, land trusts are legal in the state of California. In every state I speak in, somebody always says you can't do that here.
How about Texas?
It's illegal. Yep, they're illegal in Texas. They're not illegal in any state. No state has come up with a statute against the use of trusts. They've been around a long time. Most states defer to Illinois and Florida because they've been around longer there, and there's a lot of case law history. Yes, ma'am.
I was just, trying to be the devil's advocate a little bit. Let's say you want to sell it. Would you have to take it out of the land trust? Because, maybe at some point you want to.
Yeah, it's a great question. There are 2 ways to sell real estate. One is for all cash, and the other is on an installment contract, right? All cash is not a problem. We just tell the trustee to sign a deed, deeding it out of the trust and to the new buyer. Just a deed, just like you got to do a deed whether you're using a trust or not, right? If you're selling on an installment contract, it's a different animal. I do that all the time. I like to find tenants that are long-term tenants that prove that they can pay on time, and then 5 or 10 years down the road, I say, I can buy this house. The risk is, when you sell on a contract, is what do you do if the buyer defaults? And that can get messy. Because under a standard real estate transaction, if you're not using a trust and you sell, and the buyer defaults, you have to foreclose. In my town, foreclosure takes a year and about $10,000 in legal fees. I don't want to do that. So that's another reason why I use trust. One of the 50 reasons I use trust is to sell on an installment contract. Yes, sir.
So, say if you were being added into a new trust, would you even know who the party was of the trust that you're now going to be participating in? Or, would you even get to know where that trust has been? If it's been passed along for a couple decades or something? Or
Well, you probably wouldn't do that. You'd form your own trust. If you're buying property from another trust,
okay,
you'd probably form your own trust. You wouldn't become